Introducing the controller you've all been waiting for, the Pioneer Ddj Rev7. As you can see, Pioneer DJ have stepped into the moving platter market in a big way, introducing the Ddj Rev7, top of the line in their new range of controllers for Serato DJ Pro. This controller is packed full of performance, with all of your traditional performance pads, amazing feeling crossfader and upfader, the all-important moving platters for those turntablists. We've got a new layout which is traditional for a battle style layout, and it honestly feels great to play on. In this review, I'm going to take you through what all the features do, tell you a bit more about them all, so you can either make a better purchasing decision, or if you've already got your hands on this, you'll learn what all of the buttons do inside it as well. There's some things under the hood going on as well in some of the settings on both the unit itself and in a utility on the laptop, which I'm going to show you all in this video. Feel free to use the timestamps below to navigate to the relevant parts, or just enjoy and watch the whole thing. If you do enjoy, remember to give it a thumbs up and comment what your thoughts are. But without further ado, let's get stuck in. Out of the box, this thing plugs and plays with Serato DJ Pro. There are codes for the expansion packs such as Pitch and Time DJ and the other effects that are available within Serato DJ Pro. Just note as well, this doesn't work with Rekordbox right now. This is just a Serato DJ controller, and it's designed specifically for that software. And you can really maximize the features that Serato DJ Pro offer on this unit. Now, let's take a closer look at those all-important moving platters. This is the first time we've seen them on Pioneer DJ equipment. So first of all, let me just point out that we've got a center display here. This sticker is actually a sticker. It's not printed on the actual top of the controller, and there are different stickers that come in the box with the controller. So I've stuck this on myself. This is used for scratching and beat juggling to mark up your point, whether it be against this or this, the 12 or 2 o'clock position. Now, the feel of it, it does feel quite like a vinyl. It is a plastic top plate here, and the outside is die cast. So you've got a nice metal rim. It feels exactly like a Technics 1210, for example, on the outside if you were to nudge it. Just note, we don't have the spindle in the middle anymore. So if you are an old school DJ that uses the spindle to nudge the track faster, you might have to replace that technique with something like the pitch bend buttons down here on both decks. I'm just going to quickly show you that we can take off the top of this platter, and we can just pull it off like that. Now underneath we have these plastic circles, these basically slip mats. They replace slip mats, and there's 2 of them that come with it inside. You can obviously add or take away some of these to try and change the tension, but I've found that taking them away doesn't really do much. It's just there for a bit of extra protection. So how they feel is kind of how you get. If you want to customize some slip mats and try and cut some out, maybe, but it is a very different mechanism to some of the other controllers on the market. You'll see underneath here, we've got a notch which is missing, which basically goes into this white thing that turns around here, and that is what controls the track, as you can see. And it's that notch that controls it. So you can simply put these back on. Just note that straight away I'm already getting dust in there, and I found myself having to clean this out quite a bit. So something to bear in mind. Don't be afraid of taking them off and making sure it stays clean under there. The center display features all your key information, and you can actually change this display, which is really neat. I love that the Serato waveforms are vertical. It's a very common way to lay out your waveforms in the software if you're a battle DJ. So as you can see, they run vertically here. We've got the full overview waveform. We've got the track on the opposite side, as you can see. So you could match the tracks together using the visuals here. You've got your BPM, nice and big in the display. We've got our key information, we've got our loop information, and the time elapsed and remaining. Now we can hold shift and press these 2 buttons here, the 33 and 45 buttons, and we can switch to the traditional Serato visual, the logo, Pioneer DJ's logo, and that. I'll just note that this, where it says Serato, is actually the album artwork. There's no album artwork on this track, but that's what would display on that mode. You can also load in your own picture into here, and that's done within the Ddj Rev7 utility, which is on the laptop. And you can just load a picture in there and have your logo on the center displays at all time. While we're talking about these buttons down here, we've got our traditional 33 1/3 speed and 45 speed. You can change in the Serato software whether you want it to be either of those speeds, and you could obviously do some creative things jumping between the different speeds too. If you double tap on either of them, it brings up the center display as well on both sides. So you can have it on one or not the other, and vice versa if you don't want to put a sticker on. The Pitchman buttons down on the left of each deck just simply pitch the track up and slow it down, temporarily replacing the traditional nudge mechanism. If you hold shift, you can zoom into the waveform, zoom back out of the waveform to your desired preference. And then just up here, we've got the stop time. So you can turn this around and have a really slow stop as if you were turning a turntable off. Or a sharp stop, as sharp as it will go is this. It's got a pretty good response to its start and stop motion on these moving platters as well. Let's have a look at our traditional transport controls here. So we've got our standard things like being able to scroll up and down, click back and forth into crates, load tracks, go back, and we can change the view by holding shift, the view of Serato, or we can prepare tracks in our prepare crate. Moving across, we have our pitch adjust. Now, as you can see, this is now in the horizontal position. This is traditional for battle DJs. If you see any battle DJs mixing, you'll see that the turntables are turned 90 degrees and the pitch adjust comes at the top. This was just to move out of the way of beat juggling, and it's sort of become pretty standard now. So it's nice to see on this controller. I like the layout, the fact that this is up here, freeing up more space for the moving platters and the turntable feel down here below. Moving across, we've got the tempo range, so we can switch between 16, 50 and 8, just like any other controller on Serato, and it's really responsive. We've got our reset button to reset the pitch. Key lock button, which obviously turns on Pitch and Time DJ by Serato DJ Pro. If you use the key buttons here, you can pitch the track up and down, or you can reset it by holding shift and the plus, or you could tap that again to reset it and turn it back on. You've got your traditional sync controls to sync both tracks together. Underneath, auto loops. You can change what the auto loop activates at, so every time you press it, if you want it to always activate at 8 beats, you can do that in the Ddj Rev7 utility settings too. We've got the half and 2 times with the manual in and out adjust to underneath via the shift function. We've got slip mode, so the track will continue playing no matter what you do. You've got your sensor, which is the reverse. And then underneath the minus of the key, you've got key sync. So if you're playing a track on the opposite side, it will sync the keys of the track if they're different. And just note that will obviously pitch the track up by a few semitones, either up or down. Now underneath, this is where it gets quite interesting. I quite like this feature here on the Rev7. We've got access to the performance pads, which I'm going to cover shortly, but we've got quick access to them here as well. We've got hot cues, first 4. If we hold shift, we can delete them there as well. We've got access to Scratch Bank, which is a really popular feature in Serato DJ Pro. If I just open it up here, we've got different tracks loaded in, and we can just quickly load different tracks. And jumps to the hot cue that you've set in the Serato DJ software. So that's really quick access to that, because otherwise it's underneath the sampler here via a shift function or a double tap if you choose. So that's quite nice to have there. As you saw, I just held shift and tapped one of those buttons to go back to my first track before I played with Scratch Bank. Underneath these modes, we've got saved loop and we've got sampler as well. So it's quite nice to be able to have your sampler there if you use them a lot in the mix. You could have hot cues here, DJing, set off your samplers, so you don't have to keep swapping between modes. I know a lot of scratch DJs might use the samplers to fill the gaps between tracks, so it's nice to be able to just have that there very easily. You can't swap these modes out. It might have been a nice feature to be able to choose what mode you want to have here compared to here. The one last thing though, which is really interesting, is this instant scratch feature. If I turn this on, you'll see that it goes to through mode in Serato. So this becomes standalone now. It's just this audio that I'm about to play is coming directly from inside the unit. It's nothing to do with Serato. And Pioneer have loaded in some scratch samples that they've developed into these 4 slots. And it just loops over. And there we go. Now, some of them are better than others. Let's have a listen to the others.
Yeah, go! Yeah, go!
You've got some beats there. And then you've got a beat to practice some beat juggling if you want as well. Now there's a few things to note. You can't change the tempo range to make this really fast or really slow. You're locked to plus or minus 8. And you can't really set hot cues on it or anything like that. If you wanted to beat juggle it, you could line yourself up and load it in again and set it off. So there isn't loads of control over those, but it's a good way to just quickly load a scratch sample in to practice some scratch techniques. Press it again and it goes straight back to the playing deck. So if you've got a track playing, just bear in mind if I hit this, it will stop the track playing and it'll load that in. But when I go back, it carries on playing. So just something to bear in mind of how that works. Now to continue talking about the performance pads, we have all the usual stuff that you'd find on any Serato DJ controller, especially of this standard. We've got our hot cue mode, self-explanatory. You can jump to any point in the track. We've got rolls. We've got beat jump underneath if you activate it in the software. We've got saved loop that I can jump to or turn on and off. We've got sampler with its own volume here. And then underneath in the secondary modes, we've got shift and hot cue makes pitch play. So I could choose one of my hot cues and then start pitching it up and down. Each mode has obviously the parameter buttons here. So I can find different parameters within that mode, go higher up or lower down on my pitch play. If I'm in roll, I can get different parameters up there. Next, we have slicer loop. We could change the roll length. Underneath save loop, we have saved flip. That's an expansion within Serato DJ Pro as well, where you can basically juggle a track around. As a shortcut, you can press one of the parameter buttons to start recording your flip and then record it in. So you could have something like, let me just get ready for this next phrase. And it records that in, and you could go into save flip and store it in there to activate at any point. Shift and press to undo. So that's cool to have that right there in the performance pads. And then just as I mentioned over here, we've got the scratch bank, but now we have all 8 pads available rather than just 4. And we can switch to different banks as well using the parameter button. So we've got 4 banks available in Serato DJ Pro 2. So you can load any tracks in there with predetermined hot cues straight to the deck. A really nice addition to the Rev7 is this, the silent cue. It's something that we found on some of the battle mixers, but it's now here on the controller. So with silent cue active, you can have your fader up, you can turn silent cue on. What it does, it just mutes the track. It's playing, but you can't hear anything until you hit a cue point. So that's great for if you're doing some intricate routine and you need to just start the track like this. So we've got silent cue, dedicated one for each deck. Moving down, we have another awesome feature that's been added to this controller that we found on some of the higher end mixers like the DJM S11. We've got the smooth echo effect. Now this is really cool. With this on, when you pull a fader down, it adds an echo effect. If you cut the crossfader across, it adds an echo. So it's a really quick way to smooth your mixing. You don't have to activate an echo on your performance, on your effects paddles. It's already there and it knows to just activate it when you're coming out of the mix. Now you can change loads of the settings with the smooth echo as well. So let me show you where the settings are and run through some of them and then how they relate to the smooth echo. So if you bring your attention up to this back button, above it, it says utility. If we hold that button, you'll see on the center display, we get the utility mode and we can use the browse selector here to scroll up and down. Now in smooth echo, we can choose different ways to trigger it, whether the crossfader triggers it on and off, whether the channel faders trigger it on and off. Even if you have a hot cue and you hit a hot cue, does it trigger it? Silent cue, if you've got silent cue on, you could hit silent cue and rather than just mute the track, it echoes it out. So there's really cool things that you can add on and off here. And again, with load, if you load a track in on the playing deck, it echoes it out. If I go back, we'll see as well, we can change the beat fraction. So it's just on 1 beat at the moment, but you can change this from all the way from an 1/8 up to an 8 beat echo. The number of beats to trigger by for the crossfader. So if you're doing a lot of beat juggling and scratching, you can set this so that it has to wait 4 beats, for example, before it activates an echo. So if you're cutting every 2 beats, it's not going to echo every time until you do it, let the track play for 4 beats and then cut across. So that's a really neat feature to have in there as well, and something you'd have to experiment with. If I go back, we can change the level of it too. Here you can see it goes higher in level or lower in level. I'll just keep that in the center for now. Just while we're in the settings, I'm just going to explain some of the others. We've got the mic echo beat, so we can put an echo on the mic and choose how often that is applied. We've got auto standby, the demo or screensaver, so if I leave this for a minute, it starts flashing and dancing around. Now we've also got the motor torque, so that's the motor torque in the jog wheel, and that can be set from high to low torque as well. So again, this is personal preference, but you have that option to change it directly in the unit. Torque over mode, which is for the microphone. You've got torque over level, mic low cut, the headphones out, whether it's stereo or mono. We've got the mic to booth, whether you want to send the mic to the booth output or not. Mic limiter, a mic limiter on the master and on the booth, and whether you want the master out to be stereo or mono, plus master attenuator, master limiter, booth output, booth attenuator. Jog display, you can change, make it dimmer and brighter. The LED displays, you can make them dimmer or brighter. Slip flashing, you can choose whether you want slip mode to be flashing or just solid. Here, slip lit type, we can have it as blink or lit. We can have the MIDI mode on, or we can just factory reset the whole thing. So there's loads of settings directly in this unit to work with as well, especially when it comes to microphone levels and master levels, and you can change all of that directly in the unit. Bringing your attention to the top of the mixer, we've got a traditional 3-band EQ, which are all total kill. The trim controls are to the side here, and we've got the standard filter controls for each deck there. We can switch from laptop A to laptop B just above each trim control here. Plus, we've got the option to switch to the phono or line if you want to input some CDJs or turntables and mix traditional vinyl, for example. The exciting part of this section, though, is the effects. As you can see, we've got traditional paddles that are found on all battle style mixers now and controllers. Flick it up to lock the effect on, or pull it down to just activate a latch mode to toggle it on and off. We've got a small screen here that tells you which effect you're on. So we've got 6 effects, 6 buttons, should I say. There are more effects under there, but there's 6 buttons to activate 6 different hardware effects, which are Pioneer's beat effects. And then if we press Shift and the spin button, we go to software effects, and we can activate all the software effects within Serato 2, and it displays on the screen, even though it's not printed on here, what your software effect is. Let's go back to beat effects though for now. So if I stay on echo, have the track playing, I can lock that on. I can change the beat fraction. We've got 3/4, half. We've got a third echo, which is quite nice as well. Underneath, if we hold Shift and use the parameter buttons, we can change like a secondary parameter. So for example, in the echo, we can change the high pass filter on it and put the level up or level down. So it'll change how it sounds. So we've got more low end or more high end. We've got spin, which is a backspin. Flanger. Reverb, break, and then this one's I really like, called duck down. If we flick it on, it basically loops one beat or whatever parameter you've got set and then pitches it down until it disappears. So we could have like the third setting. Pretty cool, right? You also have bank A and bank B, so if you're on your software effects, you could have different banks there as well. And the last thing I wanted to show you is that if you're on any of the effects, you can change the hardware effects. So for example, if I hold echo, I can use the browse knob now and I can activate loads of different effects that are built into this unit. These aren't software effects, these are encoded in the hardware. Time sweep echo. Ducking echo, echo out, fill out. This is quite cool. It's like a beat masher. which is really cool. And you can spin through loads of these. There's loads in there now. If you wanted to really look into these, you can do it in the utility as well, which I'm going to show you next. So if we go over to the laptop and have a look, here we have the Rev7 setting utility. And you can save 2 banks here worth of effects, and you can change things like the filter control. Then you can have different Pioneer effects for sound color effects here. You can change the resonance of the filter, which is really nice. And then you've got all these effects to choose from and loads of parameters that you can save as standard so that when you load that effect in, the parameters are all already set to your desired preference. So there's a lot you can do, and it's very powerful, especially this utility that's on the laptop when it comes to the effects. Just while we're on the utility, it's worth pointing out that you have loads of other preferences too. So as mentioned earlier, the loop options, you can choose to always set a loop at a certain desired length using this feature here. The pad modes, we can, if you're used to double tapping a pad like this to get to the different modes, then you can activate that setting there, which I know is a popular one. You can change the cut length of the crossfader. You can change the intensity of the crossfader as well, like when you're cutting, how intense the volume dips up and down. The waveform or artwork display, you can have time elapsed or time remaining. You can display your hot cue indicator, which basically means if you're on this mode, you can see how long it is until your next hot cue. And it counts down, or we can turn that off. And then you can upload your logo as well here into the player, as mentioned before. Along the front of the unit, you can see that we've got all the standard settings for the crossfader and the upfaders, such as the feeling adjust for the crossfader to make it lighter or heavier. We've got the curve settings and the reverse switch, whether you're a hamster scratch DJ or not. We've got the upfader curve settings as well as reverse switches there too. Now for the mic controls, you can see we've got 2 mic levels. We've got an EQ for the mics as well, plus an echo for the mic controls too, which is really useful. There's a talk over option, and I've already shown you some of the setting utilities surrounding the mic options there. You've got an aux where you can plug in an aux level, and you could either have it online or portable depending on what your aux source is. And you've got your standard 1/8 and 1/4 inch headphone jacks here as well. Along the back, we have our typical outputs such as XLR or RCA. We've got booth output as well. You've got your 2 USB ports for easy changeovers or back-to-back DJs. You've got your mic inputs as well as the inputs for turntables or line level inputs such as CDJs as well. So you can use it as a standalone unit and switch between the 2. It's a shame that it's not got an onboard power and it's not just a kettle lead that you plug into something of this size. It's got an external power brick, so that's something to be aware of too. I think at this stage it could have been put internally, but just to be aware of. So just like with anything Pioneer, it's an impressive piece of kit, but along with that comes an impressive price tag. It is on the higher end of the spectrum like it usually is with Pioneer, and we've come to know that. Now, what are you getting for that money? Well, I will say that the big pros of this is it is like the ultimate battle style turntablist setup for DJs. So if your end goal is to be a Red Bull 3 style battle DJ, getting super creative with performance features and doing loads of tone plays and beat juggling and all that kind of stuff, then this really is a great solution, especially because of its portability too. You could easily take it to gigs and venues as well. That being said, there is one downside, and for me personally, I've played on some of the competitors and the other solutions for moving platters, and there's something about these that just do feel a little bit flimsy, or at least the plastic cover could have maybe been designed in a slightly different way. It's weighing up that thing of this really is a hybrid controller rather than coming from a turntable background. They've thought, how can we introduce turntables to a controller market? And that's where that hybrid comes along with the onboard displays, which are great. And it feels like, for me personally, it's like playing on a controller but having the best of a turntable. So it ticks that box. But I will just say that I feel like the top of those platters could get damaged quite easily with them just being like a plastic base that you click on top. Something to bear in mind, time will tell, obviously. This is a sample unit, we've only had it for a few days, and once these get out into the wild, I'm sure we'll hear a lot more about them too. If you're genuinely deciding between buying either this or the Rain 1, you are going to save money by buying the Rain 1, but you don't get access, or I don't think it's as intuitive to access all of the performance features on the Rain 1. Plus, this has a much more traditional battle style layout, which I prefer. The only thing I will say is that the Rain 1 is built much better than this. And if you want something that feels more durable and has a much better build quality, then the Rain 1 tops it for me over this. But they are both great units, and as we've come to know, Pioneer DJ churn these things out and they will sell like hotcakes. So I'm intrigued to hear what your thoughts are on this unit. What do you like the look of? What do you maybe not like the look of? What attracts you to the unit? And are you thinking of purchasing one? I'll see you all in the comments below, and thanks for watching. Please remember to give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll see you in another review very soon.